We can start. Yasmat jatam jagat sarvam yasminyeva praliyate yenedam dharyate chaiva tasmai jnanatmane namaha Ishvaro gururatmeti murti bheda vibhagine vyomavat vyapta dehaya Dakshinamurtaye namaha Taittiriya Upanishad Maya charya prasadataha Vispashtartha ruchinam hi Vyakyeyam sampraniyate Om Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Sokamayata Bahusyam Prajayeti Satapotapyata Satapastaptva Idagum Sarvam Asrijata Yadidam Kincha Tat Srishtva Tadevanupravishat Tadanu pravishya Satchatyacha bhavat Niruktancha Niruktancha Nilayanancha Nilayanancha Vijnanancha Vijnanancha Satyancha Nritancha Satyam abhavat Yadidam kincha Tat satyamitya chakshate Tadapyesha shloko bhavati. So we are still in this Anuvaka. Atato nu prashnaha, from there we started. So there are these three questions. One question which was an implied question, was not direct. Whether there is this Brahman at all or not. Then of course there were two open questions. What happens to that person who is ignorant after death? What happens to the wise person after he passes away? So these are the three questions. And the Shruti is still addressing the first question, which is an implied question. Because that is the question of the Nastikas. Is there something like a God? Is there something like Brahman? So that is where we were looking at last week. And so the Shruti is trying to establish the existence of Brahman by explaining. So it has chosen the creation process. And through that it wants to establish the existence of the Brahman. That is the position, that is the direction it has taken. So moment we are talking of creation, certainly there is a nimitta karana and the upadana karana. So the Shruti is actually bringing both. So sokamayata bahusyam prajayayeti and satapotapyata and satapastaptva idagum sarvam asrijata. Up to that is the nimitta karana. It talks about the know-how. It talks about the intelligent cause required to create anything in worth the name. Anything that you want to create, there must be a know-how. There must be somebody with the know-how. So this Shruti up to that talks about the nimitta karana. So in that last week we inquired what is the sokamayata. How can Brahman have desire like us? Brahman is supposed to be desireless, Brahman is supposed to be beyond all that. So what is this desire? That is what we argued. We tried to characterize that desire is different from the normal definition of desire and so on. So now comes the second question. Bahusyam prajaye yeti. How is this possible? Because all the discussion about God, all the discussion about Brahman, at least in our Vedantic tradition, is ekameva advitiyam. It is ekameva advitiyam. Now, what is this multiplicity that we are talking about? So that's the next question. What is going on here? Brahman is supposed to be one, and now the Brahman is saying, I will make many. So is there a sort of contradiction here, or what is going on here? So this is the next question that we need to little bit understand. So what is this Bahusyam prajaye yeti? Because all these ekameva advitiyam is now to be reconciled with this idea. So this multiplicity that is being suggested here is not a multiplicity of the normal understanding that we have. So in Vedantic tradition, it talks about saying multiplicity is, the notion of multiplicity is brought out by nama and rupa, by acquiring name and form. So it is not that there are different material or there are different kind of things. It is, we try to start tagging it with names and forms. Now the question is, what is this names and forms? Why should we do it? Now, please understand, anything that becomes transactional, anything that becomes transactional, the nama and rupa are inevitable. Just think about it. Space does not require any name. Space as such is not transactional. Except that, of course, the ether is there, and you have the internet, you have sound, all that is fine. Space per se is not transactional in that sense. Moment you want to create a transaction out of space, then you have to call it as a bedroom, a kitchen, a classroom, an auditorium, something you have to say. And nama and rupa go together. So when something has to get into a domain of transaction, if you don't get into the domain of transaction, space needs no name, space needs no tag, space does not require nama and rupa. Moment I am wanting to put it to some transaction, then we started creating these names and forms. So what do you infer from this? So when it says Bahusyam prajaye yeti, so essentially it is indicating from a state of nothingness and not getting into any transaction, the Brahman is saying, let me now get into transaction. So moment you have to get into transaction, then nama and rupa is very important, otherwise it is chaos. So one way to understand this Bahusyam prajaye yeti is a subtle indication that from a state of inactivity, from a state of oneness which is pervading everywhere and no desire to do anything in terms of even activity, it said, let me get into activity. Or if you really want to get into activity, then nama and rupa are required. So the world that we see, which is vyavaharika, the world that we are aware of, that we are able to recognize, is vyavaharika. Therefore that must have names and shapes and all kinds of things. So that is the kind of argument that, just think about it. A person, moment he or she, and let me take an example of a he, moment he gets into transaction, then he dons several roles. He is a father. He has a tag called father. It has a specific meaning and there is a transactional meaning to it. There he becomes a son. He becomes a son-in-law or a father-in-law. He becomes a manager. He becomes a trustee. He becomes a neighbor. He becomes a brother also. The Vyakti is same. It is the same Vyakti. A single individual starts manifesting differently. So this is what the Brahman is doing. So the multiplicity that it is talking about is in some sense a form and a name and a tag. That's why in Chandogya Upanishad so beautifully it says Vacharambanam, Sarvam Mritmayam Eva. That's what he says. The Rishi says. He says Vacharambanam, Namadeyam Vikaram. Moment you get into a world of Vikara, you need vocabulary. Vachasya Arambaha, Vacharambaha. The speech comes only out of Vikara. If the whole world is one, there is no need for speech, there is no need for language, nothing is required. So Vacharambanam Namadeyam Vikaram. That's what in Chandogya Upanishad it says. So I think that is being indicated by this multiplicity. So waves, water, the foam, everything is nothing but ocean. But when you use these words, we are able to relate it to a certain meaning, a certain kind of a transactional sense to it. It can be a wave, it can be a, that white sponge spray, the, spongy thing that you see. It can be the gushing of water that you see. All of them are water in the ocean. So that is the way we need to understand this whole idea of, names and shapes. Let's look at Mundaka Upanishad, where two shlokas really explain it. Because all these Upanishads, as I have been repeatedly saying, are coming from different directions to keep articulating it one way or the other. So let us look at this shloka on Mundaka Upanishad. It says, Tat etat satyam. This is the truth. This is a fact. Yata sudiptat pavakat vispulingaha sahasrashaha prabhavante sarupaha. From a flame, Diwali time these kids do all these sparklers. So from the root cause of all of them is the flame and the fire. Out of that, vispulingaha sahasrashaha prabhavante swarupaha. Each one takes its own shape and then comes thousands of sparkles come out of a single entity called fire. In fact, in Mundaka Upanishad, a few shlokas after this, I think the third shloka, it talks about 7 types of flames. Kali, Karali, Sudiptika, Spulangini, Sudhumra Varna. There are 7 types of flames. The smoky, the black, the red, the blue, brown. All those are there. Modern chemistry also talks about 7 different types of this flame and their color and temperature. So many things they are talking. So, the point is that just as it is a fire, from a fire there are thousands of sparks coming. You run a grinding wheel and put a metal on it. You see this. There are thousands of sparks coming out of the heat generated, and each one of them takes its own shape. So that's the example it gives. It says, Pavakat vispulingaha sahasrashaha prabhavante sarupaha tata, in the same way, like yata, tata, in the same way, aksharat, this indestructible Brahman, aksharat, Vividaha, hey Saumya, hey good looking, I am telling you, please listen to this. That's what he is telling the Shishya. He says, Tata aksharat vividaha bhavaha prajayante. So the world of multiplicity, which changes so much, it is a nice RGB, red, green, blue kind of this color palette, with which you get millions and millions of different colors. They are all coming only from the basic RGB. So in the same way, tata aksharat vividaha bhavaha prajayante tatracheva api yanti. It goes back to that finally. So it says not only that it emerged from that, one day it will go back to it. Call it as mumukshutva, moksha, you call it as liberation, whatever you want to call it. So it says, just as the sparks come out of the fire in 1,000 different forms and names, Like that, from this indestructible one entity, so many names and shapes come out, and one day it goes back to it. Now, how does it go back to it? There is a shloka in the next kanda, Taittiriya Kanda. So I thought I will bring that shloka also, just to connect this. What is it saying? Yata nadyaha syandamanaha Yata nadyaha syandamanaha samudre astam gacchanti namarupe vihaya tata vidwan namarupat vimuktaha parat param purusham upaiti divyam. Just like all rivers, river is a transactional word for water. A pond is a transactional word for water. But once the river goes and merges, so many rivers, the great Brahmaputra and the great Gangetic system, the two great river systems pour into Bay of Bengal. Once it pours into Bay of Bengal, it has lost its name and shape. It has no meaning. It's water. It goes back. In the same way, so in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, there is a 70th shloka. It's a beautiful shloka. It says, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama pravishanti akama mukta akama kami. There is one shloka like that. What it says is, just like, there the reference is different. The reference there is, greatest rivers can empty their water into the ocean. The ocean will not even shake. It will not even shake a bit. Apuryamanam achalam pratishtam samudram yavat. Like that, a person who engages in the world, he will engage in the world, but he is akamakami, so he will not get disturbed. Like that, that shloka is there. So that is what it is. In Saundarya there is in Shivananda there is a 61st shloka. It's my favorite shloka. It says, Ankolakam nija bija santatihi ayaskanto palam suchika sadvim naija vibum latakshituruham sindhu saridvallabam. Adi Shankara gives 5 definitions for bhakti in that shloka. 5 increasing definitions for bhakti. He says, Ankolakam nija bija santatihi. There is this Ankolaka tree. When the seed falls from the tree, there are 2 trees side by side. This seed falls near that tree, but it will not go to that trunk. It will come to the mother trunk. The seed apparently will move towards the tree. The trunk of the tree will be full of seeds. It is not shortest path algorithm. This seed belongs to this tree. It will only go there. That's the first example he gives. Ankolakam nijabija santatihi. Ayaskanto palam suchika. The attraction of the magnet with the needle. Here anybody can move. In the first case, seed has to move, tree cannot move. In the second case, so that's what God says. You put 1 step, I will put 2 steps. Now the needle can be, the magnet can be moved to the needle, or the needle can be moved to the, that's okay. So it is now there is a melting of the whole idea now. So Ankolakam nija bija santatihi ayaskanto palam suchika sadvim naija vibum. This pativrata, this paraspara bhava, bhakti is taken to the 3rd level called paraspara bhava. The husband and wife description there is a paraspara. That mutual dependence is the strength of grihasthashram. If I am better than you, those families are all very challenged families. Paraspara bhava is the 3rd. In the bhakti, it is because that identity should start losing. That is why the pati, vrata and bhakti and all those are brought there. The identity will start losing. So, sadvim naija vibum latakshitiruham. Like the creeper develops a sense of dependence. Dependence not out of weakness, out of the realization, this is where I should finally go. This is a larger force. It is a strength of awe. It's a strength of, seeing this great Leela Vinoda. So, for which he uses an example, latakshitiruham. Then finally he says, Sindhuhu Saridvallabham. The river from the mountains thousands of miles away, when it starts, some Kavi says it keeps on running and running because it wants to reach its counterpart. And that's why it is ceaselessly running. Although you can put a dam and stop it for a moment, it will keep running. That's why the counterpart says, I will come 10 kilometers inside. That's called backwaters. The Samudra Raja says, I will come in and receive you. So that's what he says. So, Samudre astam gachanti namarupe vihaya. Losing their name and shape and everything, and it becomes water. There is no more Brahmaputra water and Ganges water. It is water. Once it is in Bay of Bengal. In Kanyakumari, it is neither Arabian Sea nor Indian Ocean nor Bay of Bengal. It is water. So even that Nama Rupe Vihaya, even there it is gone. Because these are all transactional. This is our own artificial line. These are all words. Please understand, Nama and Rupa are only for transactions. We are in a transactional world. Vyavaharika, Vishaya. So that's what it says. Tata Vidwan Namarupam Namarupat Vimuktaha. He is able to transcend the world of Nama and Rupa, which means while he is doing transactions, he is not attached to the transaction. So it is as good as he is out of transactions. So Namarupat Vimuktaha Parat Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. So that is what he says, Tatracha eva apiyanti. That's how the previous shloka is ending. So I thought I will show that. So that is the Bahusyam Prajayeti. The name and form is the meaning of the multiplicity. It is not, there are multiple things. It's the same form, the same entity which takes form and shape and name for the purpose of getting into a little bit of a transactional mode and so on. So that's the meaning of Bahusyam Prajayeti. Let me get into Bhagavad Gita, because in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, there are good number of shlokas. I have picked up only about 4 shlokas, where the creation process is again explained in its own way. So these are those shlokas 17 to 20. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Viduhu Ratri Yuga Sahasrantam Ahoratra Vidojanaha. So it actually, the previous shloka before that he says, Abrahma Bona, Punaravartinorjuna. That's what it says. From Brahman to the worm, there is this coming and going. Abrahma Bonan Loka Punaravartinorjuna. There is one shloka like that. After that only this comes. So what is this cycle? Yes. That is the shloka. So now in this shloka it says, what is this coming and going? In that context it is explaining the creation process. Because there it said, Abrahma Bonan Lokan Punaravartino. Arjuna, they are coming again and going. So here it is explaining the frequency of coming and going. So it's where it talks about...
For 100 years of Brahman. 2.4 billion.
Yes, so it's a very large number. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam, 1 Yuga cycle. 1000 Yuga cycle, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. 1000 Yuga cycle. 1 Yuga cycle consists of, you have 100, 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. Remember 1, 2, 3, 4. 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. Celestial years is the 4 Yugas. Kali Yuga is the biggest, 4000. 4000 celestial years, not human years. And there are
4.34 million.
Yes, 4,32,000. Human years is that, and there is a 10% on both sides, which is a transition. So that's how that it will become 12,000 actually. So if you add all of them, that is 1 Yuga cycle. 12,000 celestial years makes 1 Yuga cycle. 1,000 such Yuga cycles, which means into 10 power 3 again. That is the daytime of Brahman. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahaha. Just the 12 hours of this Brahman is not the other Brahman. This Brahman is the the creator, Karya Brahman, not the Avyakta Brahma that we are talking.
Sir, this Brahma is Chaturmukha Brahma, or is it different?
No, I don't think it is. I'm not very clear, but I don't think it is Chaturmukha Brahma as well. There are different ways. We can take it equivalently. I think we can.
From Vishnu, that lotus, and we can.
Yeah, so
maybe the fourth head is behind.
So there is a bit of also mythology there. So can. Nevertheless, so 1000 such Yuga cycles makes 12 hours are the daytime. That's what the first line says. Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam. Another 1000 Yuga cycles is the Ratri. For that. So now 2000 Yuga cycles make 1 day for this Brahman.
24 hours.
24 hours. Now think of 100 years. That 100 years is the lifetime of this Brahman. Huh?
Into
Yeah, that's what, 100 years. So into 360 into 100. So that's the kind of number that we are talking about. So that is what it is saying. Then it says, what is happening there? That's the next sloka says that. Avyaktat vyaktayaha sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame. So during daytime what happens? During daytime, from a situation of unmanifested form, it comes to the manifested form. That is what so kamayata bahusyam. I told you what is this desire. The desire is to settle the account. There are lots of people who have done a few things. You can't leave them simply. So you withdraw everything into you, keep it with you for hibernate for one night, which is 1000 yuga cycles. It's all pitch dark, nothing, no activity. It's avyakta. Next day morning for Brahman, put all of them back. That is where the Soka Maheta is coming. That desire is coming there. Because you have to sort out issues. Accounts are to be properly, it's a continuous anadi ananta argument. So avyaktat vyaktayaha sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame. Moment the ahas comes, daytime comes, ratriyagame praliyante. When the ratri time comes, the pralaya happens. The universe is completely dissolved and withdrawn into it. Because that is a muladhara. That is the only particle which is only doing vyakta and avyakta. It manifests and not manifests. Manifests, not manifests. It's only manifestation and unmanifestation.
Like a movie show, 12 hours show, 12 hours shut down.
Shut down, kind of, right? Tatra eva avyakta sanchake. So it remains in a state of avyakta. So that's what this shloka says. Bhutagramasa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriyagame avashaha, not vashaha, avashaha. Avashaha partha prabhavati aharagame. So there is this, when the night comes, everything will be sucked in. Everything will be taken into a state of unmanifestation. So this process will happen again and again. Bhutagramaha. Gramaha is a cluster. It's a grama is a cluster, where cluster of houses. Grama means a cluster. So this cluster of beings are being created. Bhutva bhutva. This creation process happens. Why? Because it's a long chain which needs to be done. So it supplements some understanding of what we saw through this shloka. Then it says, finally it says finally that this Brahman is different from the other Brahman which Brahmanandavalli is talking about. How does it say? Look at the last shloka. It says, Paraha tasmat tu bhavaha anyaha avyaktaha vyaktat sanatanaha. From this vyakta Brahman, so-called Brahman which has these 100 years, 1000 yuga circles and so on, anyataha asti bhavaha, which is sanatanaha, which means that remains. When it pops up, it gets a name. When it doesn't pop up, it still remains. So it is that, the other one which he is talking about. Paraha tasmat vyaktat bhavaha anyaha avyaktaha sanatanaha. It says, compared to this, there is one more which will not go through. It is causing this, but that is a root cause.
This is not the night mode. We are talking about beyond the night and day mode.
Yeah, night and day mode have become transactional. So there is a vyakta there. It is saying there is something higher than that. That is causing this. Yaha saha sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So during the pralaya, that Brahma also has a pralaya. That's why the previous shloka said, Abrahma bonan lokan punaravartino arjuna. Brahma also will go. This Rashtrapati is for 5 years. Prime Minister is for 5 years. So the Brahma is a title on which people go and sit. Indra is a title. Indra is not a person. Indra is a title. Prime Minister is a title. Modi is a Vyakti. So Prime Minister is a permanent title. Indra is a permanent title. That's why all these Puranic stories are saying how they fight out and occupy the position and all that. It's all position. So this is a position. Now it says there's something beyond the position, which is that Brahman.
Job rotation from Vishnu to Indra.
I have no idea. Okay. Then he said,
It's mentioned.
Huh?
It's like no Purana talks about
Puranas, if you look at Puranas, there are two dimensions to it. One is the illustrative component, where one can take all these, there are stularthas, But I think given whatever little my understanding of ancient Indian wisdom, all the illustrations and the illustrative names and forms are irrelevant. The sukshma is very, very important. So we can do all these, but I think we should look at the sukshma.
The sukshma remains the same.
The sukshma is much more profound and it is meant for it.
Brahma is Brahma. He becomes Vishnu. The sukshma is the same.
Yes. So satapo tapyata. What is this satapo tapyata, satapas taptva? Now, given the argument that we have been going through, this tapas, Shankara Bhashya, he says, jnana eva tapaha. That is, and I shortly explains in Shankara Bhashya. Tapas is this entire body of know-how. As I was saying in the last class, even creating a small little piece of spectacle or a small plastic piece or a small little equipment, how much of thinking, how much of R&D? Now we are talking about a very complex system in which people have their own accounts. In fact, your SAP and the best, all your data farms are not sufficient, because you have trillions of creatures and their accounts are to be kept when you hibernate and put them back. There are in Puranas, all these are explained in a very figurative way and so on. You know, how the suns and moons and Indras are all coming and going. There are very complex kind of things are there. But anyway, keeping that aside, so the tapas is actually, to me it appears, the notion of a tapas is a foolproof and a robust mechanism to make sure the whole continuity is there because of this discontinuity of vyakta and avyakta happening in between. One is that robust continuity of this logic. Second is the know-how of creating all these. Know-how of creating the gaseous system, the know-how of creating this complex balance, the know-how of creating this cute-looking equipment called heart. Who thought about it? Take a small flesh and keep on fold it 255 times, you get a heart. Who created this know-how? We can repair it and then open it and do all that. The question is, who did that? So the tapas is all about that. It is to me it appears at one level, it is a detailed visualization of the entire complex set of things that make up the universe. How can we simplify the whole universe by not giving any explanation or saying all of them just came out of a black hole and get into a black hole? Let it come out of a black hole, which is fine. But then how did you get all this logic? How did you get this rita? That's why in the next Anuvaka it says, Bishasma dvataf pavate Bishodeti Suryaha Bishatma Chayagnis Indrascha Agnischa Indrascha. All of them work out of fear. Fear meaning a cosmic law of order. Planetary systems are all, working in perfect. Who created these? Who decided the weight of this universe? Who decided the temperature of this, universe and how much it's all that? I mean, there are lots of things. If we are not able to explain, should we dismiss it or do we still agree that there is a logic behind all this? I may not know it now. I will continue with my science and try to find out and recheck and re-verify. So tapas is, satapo tapyata is a cosmic intelligence. A cosmic omnipotent energy called intelligence which created this beautiful world. When the daytime came and the nighttime came, how do you take it and put it back and so on? How do you conceptualize time? How do you conceptualize space? How do you conceptualize causality? How do you conceptualize cosmic laws, science? Everything has to be created. And even the evolution is a certain logic, no? Even if you say it evolved over time, there is a logic which is evolving. Who created that logic? Why that logic must be, agreed upon and followed up? How did all these happen? So all those are satapo tapyata. That's why it is, in simple terms, Shankara Bhashya says, it is just jnana. Now Mundaka Upanishad gives a very nice explanation of that. Look at these shlokas. It says, tapasa chiyate brahma tato annam abhijayate annat prano manaha satyam lokaha karmasu cha amritam. So, annatva, prajayante, the same thing it is saying differently. It said it started with tapas. An intense thought of creating this structure. Tapasa cha iyate Brahma. The Brahman, the all-encompassing Brahman, which did not have a shape or name, thought about it. That cosmic intelligence created this know-how through tapas. And then through that, annam abhijayate. It created food. Food is the enabler of all this diversity over a period of time. So it created food. Annat pranaha. The vitality came. Manaha. The manas came. And satyam, lokaha, all these cosmic orders, truth, laws of, laws which are to be honored at any cost, and truthful things, and the lokaha, the whole world, everything, karma, effect, cause and effect, your work and its fruits, the whole thing is thought about, came out of the tapas of the Brahman. That's what it says. Then it says, how is it possible? It is possible by only somebody who knows everything. I may not know who it is. But logically, you cannot get anything out of nothing. Knowledge comes out of somebody who has the knowledge. How can knowledge come by itself? And how can knowledge, just go by itself? It is not possible. Knowledge comes out of somebody who has the knowledge. I do not know who it is, but looking at the size and the scale of what it is, I can tell he is a Sarvajna. He knows everything. That's why he created these nice cosmic rules are all just like that. It was woven and then just dropped in a very figurative sense. Over a period of time let it happen, but still there are somebody who has thought about it. He must be a Sarvajna. Saha Sarvajnaha. Sarvavit. Not only Sarvajnaha, he also knows what's happening. Because then you have to do all this hibernation and starting and all that, restarting the system 1,000 times, yuga cycles and all that. So Sarvajnaha Sarvavit. Asya jnanamayam tapaha. The tapas is nothing but jnanamaya. That knowledge, that bubbling of knowledge came out of tapas which created this. So jnanamayaha. Tasya jnanamayaha tapaha. Tasmat etad brahmanama. That is why, this whole bundle of cosmic intelligence and know-how is called Brahma. Is what Mundaka Upanishad is trying to say. Tasmat etad brahma nama rupam annam cha jayate. That entity called Brahman, that is a word you can use for the purpose of referring to it. Out of that this whole thing came. Rupam, namam, annam, all of them came out of it. So the point is satapo tapyata points to the simple logical thing that a nice table happened because of a carpenter. Somebody is a carpenter because he had a know-how of making a table. So this world has a carpenter. This world is so complex. And so this carpenter must be a Sarvajnaha and Sarvavit. So that is what Satapo Tapyata part of that thing comes.
But sir, the material cause will be different, no? If carpenter is...
No, we'll come. See, so far we are talking the Nimitta Karana. Ubadana, you are coming. So far we are still talking about the know-how part. So the Shruti is saying, there is one primordial force which is the know-how. So out of which something was created. To know, without know-how you cannot create. Modern scientists will agree to it. Without knowledge, let's say Nimitta Karana and Upadana Karana. We are still in the Nimitta Karana. We are talking about the person who did. We have still not come to the raw material he used. We will come to it.
In the Bhagavatam, there is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, the Rishi.
Yes, in the third...
After meeting Uddhava, Uddhava says that for getting this knowledge of Brahman, you go to Maitreya. In this same context, he says this Vyakta and Avyakta, he asked this question to Maitreya. He replies that, no, that is in Sanskrit, very typical. I'm not able to remember those slokas, but he said, the animals with 4 legs, the animals with...
Chatushpadi, Dvipada, Chatushpade, Ashtapati, Navapati and all that.
He gives the entire sense. This all came from the unmanifested form to the manifestation. Maitreya gives a very clear, and he says, these are the total set of, the living beings or animals with this one.
Enumerated.
He enumerates. These are the things which have come out of that. And it exactly matches with this.
Yes, and also that conversation continues further, and that is where again Vidura asks Maitreya about time. In the Tritiya Skanda, That's where there is one 9th chapter in which all these calculations are available there. These 1000 yoga circles, cycles, all of them are available, that same conversation.
So for every creation it be a set of creation, like sir is saying that, there is an enumeration. So if it is always the same, then doesn't this mean that the Brahman has a very limited knowledge? Because he's always creating the same kind of creation with the same set of rules about karma and cause and effect of it and everything. Or does he make changes to it? He himself learns from it, because we have seen from our common understanding also, and since we are again part of the same Brahman, so we have seen that knowledge comes from rediscovering yourself every other time, right? So does he rediscover himself?
Okay.
every other time?
See, my understanding is as follows. See, when we say know-how or knowledge and so on, there must be two parts to it. One, I call it as axiomatic principles. Even if you take calculus or queuing theory or any of the science or so on, first we need to establish the invariance of any knowledge, which is the axiomatic part, or the first principles that we may call, or once that first principles or the axioms are agreed or agreeable or robust enough, that could be the basis on which you can generate infinite knowledge. Basically, it doesn't violate the axiom, but it provides the world of possibilities for, given these axioms, the way we look at knowledge. So to me it appears some of the things that we are talking about are the axioms, the rhythm are all axioms. Now the learning part of it and the part of it happen within this domain, the ground that we lay. So I think this task that he is doing is only the axiomatic part of it. So to know that axiomatic is that learning, and once the Brahman itself gets into the process of going through it, there is a whole lot of learning which are happening at the next lower level. That is one way I understand. It's the axioms. Rhythm are all axioms. They are not changing things. It cannot change. For example, I don't think by any kind of development we can say that law of gravity, I'm just taking an example. If an item which is heavy has to fall, we can't do more and more thinking and say that if an item is heavy it will go up, or something like that. As a narrow example, that may be a situation when it will happen some other time. That means we are discovering, we are not still found the absolute axiom. It may mean, to me it appears like that. Okay, then we'll come, before we go into the upadana, I think it is very useful to look at the dream, because this creation otherwise is quite challenging kind of an idea, because there are lots of things which we don't understand, and Vedanta uses dream, and then it says the world is like a dream. So let us analyze a dream. Thoroughly we'll analyze a dream. Out of that we may get some parallels to the creation process. Some of them can be reconciled. Let's take a hypothetical dream. There is a dream which I go through, and the dream is that dream comes only when I am sleeping, so I am comfortably in a bed. Only then the whole question of dream starts. So the preconditions for dreams are that my sthula sharira is off, inactive. My hands and legs are all inactive. My pancha karmendriyas, jnanendriyas are all at rest. My manas is active. That's where the dream starts. So it could be a dream that in which I actually go out into the market. The dream can be based on what happened yesterday also, or what happened in the last. We might have gone through. Let it all be that. Let's say I went out and then I see somebody, I have a big conversation, and then as midway through the conversation I suddenly look at my watch and say, oh, it is getting late, I have to catch a flight or a train or something. Then I rush. I'm looking for a auto or a vehicle or something. Nothing is available. I start sweating because I'm very tense now, and I get up. My forehead is little sweat. Let's take this hypothetical dream. We have and then I wake up, and I find that there is no flight, nothing, I am pitch dark, I am in my bed only. Everything is all, we all have our own experiences. Let's analyze this dream first. There are a few principles of this dream, we must get it very clear. We'll go one at a time and establish that. First principle is, dream is a projection from me. Your dream is a projection from you. It is not a projection from somebody else. I only projected my dream. Correct? That's the first thing, let's keep in mind. Dream is a projection from us. Okay? I created the dream. You did not create my dream. Nor can I create your dream. That's impossible. I was sleeping and I had a dream. You slept, you had a dream. So I am the author of I am the creator of the dream. Please understand. And I only entered into it. I mean, I would have brought you also. Actually, my dream may be this class, so all of you will be there. Tonight, if I do a dream, right, I will definitely enter into it. That's the point I'm making. And I choose what characters come in. I am the one who is choosing. I will choose this repetition of this as my dream, in which I have rough attendance of these people, all will be there. Right? So I create the dream, I am the creator, and I enter into it. Agreed? Point 2. As long as we are the wakers, there is no dream. And what do I identify with? I identify with my stula sharira. My medium is my stula sharira when I am awake. That's all. I mean, it also has sukshma and all those are there. But the sense of I have is with my stula sharira when I am in the waking state. So as long as I am in the waking state, my identification by and large mostly is stula shariram. Agreed? I could have put it as the first bullet anyway. So what did I do first? For the purpose of dream, I created a new world. I only created. I went to the market. I was talking to somebody. I looked at the watch was manufactured by me. The market was manufactured by me. The friends I met were manufactured by me. Maybe there is a vegetable shop I manufacture a world there. I created for the purpose of a dream a world which is different from the so-called reality. Reality is I am in a pitch dark room sleeping in a bed here. But then I actually lit up the whole place, created a marketplace where I was talking to you, and then I suddenly looked at my watch, and then I found it, then I created a notion of auto rickshaw. I could not find the auto rickshaw. I kept running this road. I created some roads also. I went on the left side and then turned the right. So I created a whole city. I only created it. And I created a different world. A world which is real in that particular sense. Don't tell me the world was unreal. The world was real as long as you are going through the dream. You are also able to recollect it. So it is doesn't seem to be fully unreal. There is a notion of reality there. Because you recollected the dream after you got up. Where did it come? How can you get something out of nothing? It's not possible. You recollected the dream. And the dream is a it's almost realistic. No? That's why I had a sweat on my forehead when I got up, because I couldn't get an auto. I was missing my flight. I created an airport. I created a flight. I created a boarding pass. Everything I did. I didn't explain the whole detailed dream to you, assume like that. So I created another world. Please understand, I created another world. All these words are very important. I created another world. Yeah? And why was that world required? Because I have some transactions there. Dream was a transaction. If there is no transaction, this name is not required, the world is not, nothing is required, na? There is a whole set of transactions going on. I was trying to catch a flight, I went to the market, I met somebody. These are all transactions. So I created a world because I required some transactions to be done. So Namarupa came only because of that. I did all that. Agreed? Agreed? No, this person was not in that. In fact, the biggest question which we are not able to answer, is your nimitta and upadana are same now. Do you get it now? I am the nimitta and I am the upadana because I am the creator and I am the creator. The creator becomes a product in that scene. In that world, in that other world, this creator has become a product.
Same dream I Vishwa created.
We have come there. So in the dream, the original real Mahadevan is actually a product getting transacted. I am also seeing it. I mean, I see myself as a creator. I am also seeing the created entity of my. That's what dream is, no? Because I only, went to the. I was sleeping. I was having two states now. I was sleeping. I was also running for an auto. I was getting tensed up, and there was sweat on my forehead. Right? So now first time I have proven to you that it is possible to have upadana karana and nimitta karana from the same source. You agree with me? Yes. You can have upadana and nimitta from the same source. You don't need a different source. Because this is a source which was the intelligent cause to create the dream, and out of this thing I manufactured. Agreed? So the waker became a product in the dream world. I am seeing myself running around. It's a product now. It's an object. Product, if you don't like the word, object. I have objectified myself into that reality. And I am seeing it. Correct? That's also possible in any dream. If you confine yourself only to the dream, forget about the observer now. If you confine yourself only to the dream, you are not the creator, you are only an actor, you are one of the actors. You were there, your friend was there, your airport was there, your roads were there, your market was there. There was no auto. So auto was there and the auto was removed. The notion of auto was brought and it was removed. So I am only an actor. I am not the creator. I am talking in the domain of the dream. Only when you step out of the domain of the dream, you are seeing that you are a creator, you are also seeing something. I am now confining myself only to the dream. Within the confines of the dream, I am not a creator. I am one of the actors. There are so many characters in that, I am one of them. Agreed? That's also agreeable? So both the waker, the fellow who was in the waking state, who got into sleeping and then got into dream, the waker who was actually the creator of the dreaming personality, and the dreamer who is the created personality by the waker, are one and the same. Absolutely one and the same. So you have any difficulty in agreeing to any of these statements? Because this is what it is. You have to objectively look at the dream. What caused the dream? What is the raw material? What is happening in the dream? Who are all the actors? All that. Correct? Now, I will transform from here to the Brahman. Because, yes.
In our dream, we can only create or visualize things which we have experienced.
Absolutely. Agree. Absolutely. Huh? No.
No.
I can visualize in my dream that I am dead. That is possible.
No. He is right. I will tell you. You can visualize yourself being dead only because you had an experience of death.
Yes,
not in this Janma.
What I am saying is...
Not in this Janma.
Okay.
Without, what he says is very correct. You cannot objectify anything without a prior knowledge of it.
Yes.
Nothing is possible. If you had experienced death, that means if you dreamt death, that means you have an experience of death. You need not be in this Janma. So you are right. But please understand that this trace of my experience is not in this one Janma. So my repository can be very large.
Yeah.
Yes, but one example I can give is, for example, you are saying that we catch a aircraft to, for example, I need to go to somewhere outside India.
Okay.
I actually dream that I go to an airport and I catch a flight, okay? The maximum I can dream about traveling so very fast is something that I have seen on Discovery, or I have heard about NASA creating something. I can never create, or I have heard something about, the yarn that we have in our own
No. No. In fact, quite a few innovations have happened because of these extra sensory things that they are able to bring in.
But we would have experienced that in some way or the other.
Yeah.
It might have been an idea in our waking state which would have come in our dream.
No, all that I am saying, don't confine it to this Janma alone. That's the point I am making. Don't confine it to this Janma alone, because if you confine it to this Janma, 3 days back in that Man Ki Baat, they were showing it in Doordarshan, Manmohan Singh's Man Ki Baat. There is one girl. They were actually showing a girl there. Narendra Modi was talking to that girl. His father is from Lucknow or some packet of Uttar Pradesh. This girl, the father said the father and mother are completely illiterate. This environment where they are, there is no iota of any knowledge possible for that family. This girl from the age of 2 is reciting all the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. There is no way you can explain.
Somewhere they would have introduced this.
No, she is 2 years.
2-year-old.
For 2 years. There are plenty of examples like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the exceptions would be there because, for example, Beethoven or people, he created his first symphony when he was 3 years old. And this was the
No,
first
lot of child prodigy will actually point to the possibility. A point I am making is, I think what you said is very correct. Without an experience, you cannot dream or even create anything. So that experience, our only point of difference that I would, our point of departure is the experience is not confined to this Janma alone.
Probably no. Normally we don't really remember all those experiences. Like Buddha remembered 500 of his previous Janmas. We don't do that.
That is possible. No?
That might be.
So it's all there. But I am saying you are still right. So the dream that we can bring is out of a repository which we have, which can be now, later, all that kind of things. Yeah? In fact, that is the argument for the creation process also now. This is exactly the argument for making the creation process a powerful one.
That's what I was asking, that the knowledge of the creator is limited or not.
No, it is. Yeah.
In fact, even Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita somewhere that I remember all the janmas of my
Yeah.
past. You do not.
Yeah, it is.
Unity of
Yeah, it is the fifth shloka in chapter 4. When he said, Katam etad vijaniyam tamado proktavan iti. That's what Arjuna asked. He said, Aparam bhavataha janmaha aparam mama janma purvam. All that is there in that shloka. You don't know, but I know, and all that. I mean, these are all very figurative experiences, explanations. These are concepts. Now let's go from the dream to the creation process and do a one-to-one mapping. Anyway, so the last point is the most important point. Who am I? If I have to answer that question, who am I? It is a function of what do I want to associate myself with. If I have to associate myself with the dream world, my notion of I is different. If I want to associate myself with the waker world, then I will say I am the creator. That is a created product. If I am in the dream world, I don't bother about creator. I don't even know creator, because the creator is still also a product for me now. So who am I? Answering who am I is a question of saying what do you want to associate with, because you have multiple existences for you, multiple world, multiple media in which you communicate. So you have to first say where do you want to stand to answer this question. Because if I strictly confine myself to the domain of dreaming, and I want to say this is all is my world, I will not go out of it, then the notion of I is different. On the other hand, if I want to stand in the waking state, I will say, oh, that I is, I am the creator. That is created. I am the creator. That is the created. Like that I can say. So the I that I found inside the dream is different from the I which is outside in terms of a certain perspective, and so I have now decided where do I want to stand and say who am I. Depending upon that, it can be a little different. Now, these are all exactly one-to-one to the creation process. What happens is, so what is happening? The dream is what? The waker is projecting the waker is projecting it out of itself, himself or herself. And the waker creates the dream, and enters into it also. That's what I did. I created, so I am the Upadana, I am the Nimitta, I did all that nice looking thing, right? And one or more world is created. Sushupti is another world which is even more complicated. Sushupti is another complicated world. It's very difficult to even explain that. Dream at least we can explain.
But that can be explained obviously.
No. I'm saying it's a little easier. That's you have to little difficult. So one more world is created to experience and transact. And how did you do all that? That is where you use what is called manas. The apparatus to do all this is called manas. That manas has all the accumulated vasanas. Our theory, which believes in reincarnation, punarjanma and all that, that continuity variable comes through what is called vasanas. Vasana and karma and avidya, these are the three words which are used, which comes through the karana sarira into this equipment called manas. So the dream is enacted by an instrument called manas. I use an instrument called manas, and using that manas only I played out the dream. That's why in Sushupti when I switched off the manas, the dream went off. I can't because my apparatus is not with me anymore to create this mayajal. So in deep sleep, Sushupti, the manas is switched off. You don't have the apparatus to create that world. Now you went to a world of nothingness. Okay? So the point is, Vedanta says, what you see in Pinda is what you will see in Anda. There is a one-to-one relationship between these two. So in the Ratri, we do a pralaya of our personality. In the Ratri, in deep sleep, in Sushupti, the personality, there is a pralaya of the personality. We don't exist. We don't exist means we have become avyakta. Morning we become vyakta. We pull all the socks, put it back onto us. That is the larger game there. So the dream, so you look at the Anda, understand look at the Pinda, understand the Anda. Look at the, Vyashti, understand the Samashti. These waking state, these states are all analyzed so deeply in Vedanta to provide these kind of thing. We'll continue this in the next class. It's already 7:02. Because we need it a little bit more, so we will sort of continue it in the next class. Thank you.
So when we say Brahman enters into it, we're referring to